Steven Universe is a show that I think needs no further introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. It follows the titular Steven Universe, son of the deceased Rose Quartz, as he's raised by the Crystal Gems, a trio of magical lesbian space rocks dedicated to protecting the Earth from all harm. While starting out as a relatively simple coming-of-age story, as the show progressed, Steven Universe would become something much more complicated. We would get deeper, more emotional stories with so many twists and turns, learn more about the world and characters, and watch Steven grow into an even greater hero than Rose Quartz ever was. And it is very divisive. For various reasons, Steven Universe has become a very controversial topic, to the point where it's hard to even mention it online without it leading to some seriously heated discussion. Even 3 years after Steven Universe Future's end, oh dear god, what even is time, it still continues to generate discourse to this day, and it doesn't seem to show any signs of stopping. Now personally, I like Steven Universe a lot. The characters are well written and compelling, with some exceptions, with Peridot and Pearl being among my favorite fictional characters of all time. The backgrounds are beautiful, the atmosphere is great, the ongoing story is captivating, the emotional beats always hit hard, and the songs are amazing. That said, even as a fan, it's hard to deny that Steven Universe is a deeply flawed show. And for every incoherent rant claiming that the Crewniverse are pedophiles and Nazi apologists that kill the animation industry, there are at least a few rational criticisms to be had. The secondary gems aren't utilized nearly as well as they could have been. The characters can be off-model to a distracting degree. Most of the Townie episodes are just boring and forgettable. The pacing of the overarching narrative can be aggravatingly slow. There are a number of plot threads that either go nowhere or are given lackluster conclusions. And there are several storylines where Steven Universe kind of drops the ball. One of these storylines has been on my mind a lot recently, to the point where I felt compelled to revisit the show and give my personal thoughts on it. Said storyline comes from what might be the most controversial episode outside of the series finale, the show's 100th episode, Bismuth. For those in need of a refresher, the episode sees Steven accidentally awaken a gem that's been bubbled within Lion's mane. That gem being the titular Bismuth, one of the original crystal gems who fought alongside Rose Quartz during the Homeworld Rebellion 5,000 years ago. After getting filled in on what's happened since she's been bubbled, we see Bismuth palling around with the crystal gems, and she seems like a really cool person. That is until the end of the second act, where it's revealed that she's been working on a weapon called the Breakpoint, which is designed to shatter any gem, even diamonds. Steven opposes Bismuth's plan to use Breakpoint, leading Bismuth to reveal that Rose bubbled her for that exact same reason, and attack him, forcing Steven to poof her, with the episode ending with the crystal gems bubbling Bismuth once more. Now a lot of people, especially black audiences, took issue with how the episode portrays Bismuth, a heavily black-coded character, as aggressive and being in the wrong for wanting to kill her oppressors, who in this case are literal space fascists. I'm not going to linger on the potential unfortunate implications of a black-coded character like Bismuth being aggressive and antagonistic, since all of her other appearances portray her as more heroic and easygoing, but what I do want to talk about is the episode's stance on Bismuth's willingness to shatter. Personally, I'm more mixed on Bismuth than anything. While I think that Bismuth herself is a great character, and the additional gem lore is really interesting, the way that the episode tackles the moral dilemma of using lethal force is pretty shaky. The episode has Steven claim to Bismuth that shattering would make her no different from the diamonds, while Bismuth counters that it's different since she's killing for the sake of liberating the galaxy from the oppressive grip of the Diamond Authority. And while the episode portrays Bismuth in a clearly sympathetic light, it's also apparent that we're meant to side with Steven in this conflict, and that Bismuth is in the wrong for being willing to kill her oppressors, who are again, space fascists. Yeah, this ain't it, Chief. Lately, the idea of heroes not killing their villains has become more of a hot-button issue online, with more and more people detesting the notion of heroes sparing their foes, and one of the main reasons why Steven is something of a punching bag on the internet. However, I personally have no issue for a hero not believing in killing their enemies, and Steven is no exception. I'm sorry, but if you're expecting this child from a children's show for children about love and understanding to kill with extreme prejudice, I don't know what to tell you. You're watching the wrong show. The issue with Bismuth is that the episode portrays killing the diamonds as being wrong, period, and not just wrong for Steven. Granted, future episodes would clarify that showering the diamonds would be a really bad idea that would make things even worse, given that the reason they used the corruption song to begin with was because they believed that the crystal gems shattered Pink Diamond. Plus, we now know that the diamonds are the only ones capable of curing corruption, meaning that if Bismuth somehow shattered one of them, then she'd be dooming her comrades to a fate worse than death. And as awful as they are, the diamonds aren't irredeemable monsters. They can can be reasoned with, so them willingly undoing corruption wasn't outside of the realm of possibility. However, at that point in the show, none of this was made clear to the audience or Bismuth. In fact, Bismuth didn't even know about corruption yet. So because of these factors, the episode left a lot of people thinking, yeah, Bismuth's right, screw the diamonds, and did take kindly to the stance that killing space fascists who were responsible for so much suffering was morally wrong. In fact, nothing about what Bismuth was suggesting was really unreasonable. If the episode wanted to portray Bismuth as wrong for wanting to kill the diamonds, have it be because doing so would make things worse, and not because resorting to shattering them would be morally incorrect in itself. If you want an example of this sort of moral dilemma done right, just look at Avatar: The Last Airbender's multi-part series finale, Sozin's Comet. Like Steven, Aang doesn't want to kill the villain. However, unlike in Steven Universe, which argues that killing the big bads would be inherently wrong, in Avatar, it's made clear that offing Ozai wouldn't be amoral, and everyone who insists that it needs to be done isn't portrayed as necessarily incorrect or irrational. The issue instead is that killing the Fire Lord would be wrong for Aang himself. Ozai is an absolute lunatic willing to commit mass genocide, and Aang is the only one who can defeat him. But killing anyone, even a monster like Ozai, would go against everything the monks of the Southern Air Tribe taught him. Aang knows that Ozai is a tyrant that needs to be taken down, but wants to do it in a way that doesn't require him to throw away everything he believes in. So now that we all understand the controversy surrounding Bismuth, instead of continuing to complain about the episode, I'd like to go over the changes I'd personally make to improve this storyline. For starters, even though Bismuth is a 22-minute special, I don't think that's quite enough time to fully flesh out the conflict between Steven and Bismuth. I'd instead have it be a 5-episode story arc centering around her, giving the show more time to expand upon Bismuth's character and motives. Next, I'd have the storyline take place after the zoo arc. Why? Because this is the point where we get a brief glimpse at the Diamond's humanity. It's the point where the idea of them potentially changing their ways and listening to reason didn't seem entirely outside of the realm of possibility, and lent some credence to the notion that shattering the Diamonds wasn't the only answer. The Diamonds being able to undo corruption also needs to be addressed prior to this hypothetical arc, as it's going to serve as the primary reason why Bismuth shouldn't go through with trying to murder the Diamonds. That said, I'm not entirely sure how to introduce this idea, since the Diamonds wouldn't have any way of knowing about corruption before invading Earth in reunion. I guess Steven and the Crystal Gems could reason that if the Diamonds caused corruption, then they could probably undo it? I don't know, how about we just not think about that part too much? More specifically, I'd have this arc take the place of the Steven and Connie have a fight storyline in early season 5. Setsun honestly could have been resolved in an episode or two, and not much would have been lost. That would also mean writing out the whole Lapis leaving thing, but Lapis's arc in season 5 was super rushed and unsatisfying anyway, so who really cares? Dear lord, she was so close to being a good character. As for the episodes themselves, the first episode wouldn't be too different from the first half of Bismuth, with Steven accidentally unbubbling Bismuth, the Crystal Gems giving Steven a proper introduction to her, and Bismuth getting filled in on everything that's happened over the past 5,000 years. The following episodes would then consist of the following: a flashback episode focusing on her time with Rose Quartz during the Gem War, that sets up how the two didn't quite see eye to eye on everything, an episode where Steven introduces Bismuth to Peridot and Lapis, leading to conflict as Lapis recognizes Bismuth as the one who poofed her during the Gem War, while Bismuth sees Lapis as nothing more than a member of the upper crust of the gem hierarchy that she despises so much. God, I'm still so frustrated that they never did anything with that. Then an episode where she learns about corruption while joining the team on a mission to bubble a gem monster. The purpose of these episodes would be to show that Bismuth isn't quite as well put together as we thought she was. Not only would they reveal that she's still very much shaken by everything that went down during the Gem War, but each episode, especially the corruption one, would further shine a light on the fact that Bismuth's dedication to taking down the Diamonds is obsessive and borderline unhealthy, something that Steven would gradually start to recognize. This would culminate in the final episode seeing the two come into conflict, similar to the third act of Bismuth. However, there would be a few key differences here. Steven, despite being deeply uncomfortable with the notion of shattering anyone, concedes that after what they put her through, Bismuth has every right to want the Diamonds dead, but explains that they're the only ones who can fix corruption, and that doing so would be dooming her corrupted friends, while also bringing up the possibility that the Diamonds could be reasoned with, as opposed to claiming that the act of shattering the Diamonds would be inherently wrong. However, Bismuth, despite knowing that the Diamonds are the only ones who can fix corruption, after witnessing their cruelty firsthand, doesn't believe that Steven could ever change their minds. This makes the episode portraying Bismuth as the antagonist here more justified, given that she knows that she could be potentially destroying their one chance at curing corruption, but refuses to back down out of sheer stubbornness and pessimism. At the same time, given what Bismuth's gone through because of the diamonds, it's still easy for the audience to sympathize with her and understand why she believes that reasoning with them is a lost cause. From there, things would play out the same, with Bismuth attacking Steven, and Steven being forced to poof her with Rose's sword. However, unlike in Bismuth, this episode wouldn't end with Bismuth getting bubbled, a decision that I believe both fans and critics of this episode will agree was a mistake. Like, Bismuth cooled off when it was all over, and she had no further desire to harm Steven. The Crystal Gems know this. Why are we leaving her bubbled indefinitely? You know, besides for budgetary reasons. Instead, after Steven tells the Crystal Gems about what happened with Bismuth, he insists that they let her reform, and reassures them that she isn't going to hurt him. After Bismuth reforms, the group has a serious discussion about what occurred. Bismuth expresses remorse for attacking Steven during the heat of the moment, and now that she has a clearer head, does understand Steven's perspective on the matter. However, unlike in canon, Bismuth still believes that the diamonds need to die in order to achieve peace, and she actually gives Steven a solid counter-argument. What if the diamonds can't be reasoned with? Then what? Bismuth explains that she's seen firsthand what the diamonds are capable of, and if worst comes to worst, they need some sort of contingency plan to deal with them. Steven, while again still being very much against the notion of shattering gems, is forced to come to terms with the very real possibility that the diamonds will never change, but still insists that if there's a chance of curing corruption and resolving things peacefully, they need to take it. So Steven and Bismuth are forced to reach a compromise. Bismuth agrees to hold off on her plans to kill the diamonds in favor of a less violent method, while the Crystal Gems allow her to keep Breaking Point around, but only to be used as an absolute last resort. Now we still need a reason to write out Bismuth for a while, given that the show doesn't have the budget to add an additional main character. So instead of being bubbled, Bismuth, out of shame for attacking Steven, decides to roam the earth for a while and work out her issues. Of course, Bismuth comes back for Ruby and Sapphire's big gay wedding and Reunited. Reunited could even see Breaking Point come into play, with Bismuth attempting to use it by the time Yellow Diamond shows up and starts wrecking everyone's crap, but it ultimately gets destroyed in the fight before she can properly use it. It's all fine though, because in the end everything works out. Steven convinces the diamonds to heal the corrupted gems, they change their ways, and no one has to die. Because again, like it or not, this is Steven Universe. Again, despite my criticisms, I truly do love Steven Universe in spite of its flaws. And even if it doesn't hold up super well upon rewatch, it was still really interesting to revisit and pick apart Bismuth after having not watched it in years. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Discourse the episode? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below if you want. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure how to end this video.